anybody have any, like, wicked random celebrity beef?
Well, I usually try to give celebrities the benefit of the doubt because you never know if they're having a bad day and people are always pulling and pushing for their attention. But mine was with Tyra Banks. I was not pushing or pulling for attention. In fact, they paid me and asked me to be on her show, season 5, episode 1. Producers of the show told me I was there just to be myself and to be like, hey, you get judgment on the internet. This was like 10 years ago, but we want you to be on the show because Tyra wants to be about being yourself and loving yourself. Well, unbeknownst to me, the episode was about taking your hair out and showing your real hair, even though Tyra's over here was straightened and flattened and definitely not her natural hair, and definitely neither was this blonde dude. But before, they cut my hair and didn't tell me this was my hair. I paid thousands of dollars extensions, which I could not afford at the time. They took it off. They took off my nails, everything. Beef is with Tyra because she was extremely rude for no reason. She told me my hair was fried. She was like telling the producers to get me off the stage. I didn't belong on her show. She didn't want me on her show. And to top it all off, they used me and didn't pay for my plane ticket home. Okay, so since the last one was well received, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one. I promise I usually have really good experiences when I go on TV shows. Howard Stern was amazing. Tosh Point O was great. But here's the next one that I have a bad taste in my mouth from. Ellen DeGeneres. She was extremely annoyed the whole time with this segment. She said this was a dumb segment. Didn't even want to do rehearsals for it. We were actually told to not even look her in the eye while we were on TV, which I totally did. We were also told not to touch her. And in this clip, you can actually hear me say, oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to touch you. Ellen was super charming in the clip, but immediately after, she started like wiping herself as if I gave her some like disease. She said, she touched me, get her out of here. We obviously had to finish the segment, but I wasn't even allowed back into the green room where my stuff was. They got it for me and met me in the parking lot. Okay, I have 2 more celebrities that weren't really like nice, and then I promise I have a ton of celebrity stories that were freaking amazing. It saddens me to say that the lead singer from the All American Rejects was not the nicest. I wouldn't say he's rude, and I wouldn't say I have beef or a bad taste in my mouth, but I'll tell you my experience. So I distinctly remember this shot, which is really the only shot you see me on in the video, where I think his name's Ty, has to push, he busts through both of us, this guy and myself, and then he pushes us back together. I remember him distinctly being, when they said, oh, now push them back together, he's like, oh, I have to touch her? Like, I don't know really what that meant. I just know I was really self-conscious in that dress that you saw me in America's Got Talent a couple months later, but I just remember thinking it was so weird, and he never introduced himself or never said hi, so definitely wasn't like the warmest, but I remember feeling really self-conscious ever since that take. All right, so you guys don't think that I'm always the problem, that I'm just like this crazy fan or whatever. Here are some reasons that are actually like way too extremely nice to me. Howard Stern. I got to actually meet and talk with him after the show. Super, super cool. And I saw him at the finale, and he was also super cool to me there, and was just like, oh my gosh, like, you're such a good sport. Like, thanks for coming. Like, it's so nice to meet you. Like, just overtly nice. Took pictures with me after, and I just like wasn't expecting that from Howard Stern, and it was like leaving me speechless. Eric Stonestreet on Modern Family, one of the few cast members who took the time to actually talk to me. I was a featured extra, but yeah, Jesse Tyler Ferguson and the woman from the show were in the scene, as well as like a special guest co-star. I didn't know who he was, but they didn't really talk to me. They weren't mean or anything, but Eric went above and beyond to say hi and like welcome me, and he was really cool. Johnny Knoxville and Bam, super cool guys. Steve-O has always been misogynistic to me, so like for part 2 if you want to know that story. So this next one is a mix of like the worst experience I've ever had with a production or cast of a show meets the nicest person I've ever met, and I'd consider him a celebrity. He definitely has a big podcast now and was on the Goldbergs, and that's Brian Callen. He was the host of the show called Bank of Hollywood. It shortly lived on E! My episode never aired, and I will tell you why. This was the Bank of Hollywood, made up of people that I never heard of. Someone from the Pussycat Dolls, the spelling woman, some Wilhelmina model guy, and this bitch that I had no idea. They were so freaking mean to me. Basically, I was asking money for boob jobs, and they basically made me take off my, they didn't make me, but they asked me to take my hoodie off and my bra off, to which I obliged, to which they totally obliterated my natural boobs and told me how uneven and gross they were, and basically humiliated with me, and ended up not even giving me the money, and I started sobbing, and it was in front of a live audience. That's when Brian came in and saved the day and basically told him to stop filming because I was having an actual breakdown. Needless to say, it never aired, and I was completely scarred. Okay, more nice, wonderful experiences I've had with celebrities, and that's Matthew McConaughey right there. I see his ass and his calves. He was wearing a face mask. This was pre-COVID, and we were on Hollywood Boulevard shooting a Jack Johnson, I think his name. I think they're just friends. He was directing this music video. We had no idea Matthew McConaughey was director until we showed up on set. That was me and the other featured extra, I guess, in the video. There's Matthew McConaughey directing me again. These are some paparazzi shots. He also was so nice. He asked if our feet were okay. He asked the crew to get us flats and slippers, and we were just extra, and this is just one of many shots. And he was asking us if we needed jackets. He was asking crew to go get us jackets, even we didn't need it. And just was like laughing and like smiling the whole time. It was a no pressure situation. Never once yelled at anybody. It was just completely cool, and I like kind of fell in love. This was like 2011, and I was like obsessed. Back to nicest. I hate to say this, but I don't want to like ruin his character or his troll, but Nathan Fielder is super freaking nice and an absolute genius. I did Nathan For You. That's me. I was the girl with the big boobs as like the decoy for the security guard who was obsessed with big boobs, and we were supposed to go on a date or whatever. I did 2 scenes. The final scene, you can see Nathan over there, and he was so freaking nice and like appreciative of me doing the show. This was season 1, and I actually had never heard of him. I had just did Tim and Eric, which if you guys want to hear that story time, let me know. But he was so freaking appreciative and was just overtly nice and was just like, oh my gosh, please come back again. I didn't get any sexual vibes at all. Like he was trying to hit on me and nothing. You know, he might be me. I don't even know his sexuality, but he was like insanely nice and just was like really, really kind and just kept thanking me. And that guy was actually a creep, and he's not even anybody, so. Okay, here is part 2. So actually, I was going to say Bam and Johnny Knoxville were actually really nice. That's why they were included in this. This was some sketch we did for an award show, and they were super nice. Johnny Knoxville actually was holding, actually I had the picture. He was holding umbrellas for all the girls that were extras. I found it. There's Johnny Knoxville holding the umbrella for like us extras, which is really cool. And Bam Margera also came over and personally introduced himself, and they weren't creepy or anything. It wasn't like they were hitting on the girls. They were actually really nice and respectful. Steve-O, I've met him now 3 times through David, Jason, through acting gigs, and through my friend Kale, and he's just always like ignored me. Like he just never looks me in the eyes. He only talks to guys. In fact, when he was on the H3 podcast recently, I asked Ela if he like talked to her and looked at her, and because she's like, she didn't really like notice anything, but I just think he's just very either anti-women or had a bad experience, but never looked me in the eyes, never gave me the time of day, even when I was talking to him. More super nice celebrities I worked with was Tim and Eric from the Tim and Eric show. I was in the puberty segment, and they liked me so much that they asked me back to be on more episodes, and I had said no because I didn't realize like really who they were, and I didn't get paid enough. I think I got paid like $75. I was an idiot. Tim and Eric, I'll be in anything you do now. But through them, or the producer on that show, I got Nathan For You, so totally cool, and they were really nice and respectful, and they're like, we'll get you out of here as soon as possible, and I was like, cool. My favorite chick, Tracy Bingham, I worked with her on a couple projects, and she was always so cool. She is definitely a girl's girl and hypes me up every time. I was one of the chunkier girls on her show, and she was like living for me. She kept telling them to feature me more. Love you, Tracy. And finally, Stanley. I got kicked off from his show, but he did cry and actually come down and hug me, which I heard he didn't do to any other contestants after they left. I wasn't even the biggest Stanley fan, but he told me that I was a huge part of that show, and he loved having me on. So this series might get me in trouble, but this is another nicest celebrity versus kind of like scary. This was the Eminem video I was in. I was Jessica Simpson. He was Tony Romo. I was about 20 years old, and I was cast as Fat Jessica Simpson. Now, behind the scenes, Eminem on the BTS, he was very like fun and just like all over the place and like loud, and like he was a great ball of energy. But once it turned off, like behind the scenes, he's like, hi, I'm Marshall. Thanks for doing this. And I remember the director, Joseph Kahn, he also hated my outfit that the wardrobe gave me. They put me in a skirt. He was pissed that they didn't know what Daisy Dukes were. So he was more mad at them and kept yelling. But he would tell me, like, he would tell Eminem, like, okay, like, her blubber, like play with it, whatever, like, you know, giving direction, because I'm a Fat Jessica Simpson, which was totally fine. And when he left, I remember Marshall or Eminem being like, oh my gosh, like, you look better than the real Jessica, don't be self-conscious. Because I think I might have said I was like self-conscious, or I don't know what I said, I don't know, I was 20 years old, and he was insanely nice. 100 out of 10. Okay, so this is my last celebrity beef, I guess, and then I promise I have some good story times. And unfortunately, this one involves Nick Cannon, who I always heard was actually a really nice guy, and I think he was just having the worst day ever when I auditioned for America's Got Talent. Now, I actually didn't talk to Nick before. The time that he interviewed me was like the first time I met him. It was after when the show had asked me to do an extra bit with Howard Stern. I don't think it ever aired, where I was like following him to his dressing room. It was completely planned or whatever. Like, Howard was really nice. Sharon was like nice, and even Howie was cordial. Nick was horrible. Nick looked at me like I had escaped in there, that I somehow got past everybody, and he literally yelled for security with nobody around, which, like, security, security. It was so weird. The judges were all there. It was like hella embarrassing, and I just was standing there, and he's just like, you need to get the fuck out of here. Okay, so this one is kind of sad, but I thought I would share the story. So David LaChapelle directed this, and he hated that the outfit I was wearing originally had something sequins covering my tummy. He hated the sequins. He like hates sequins, and basically took it off. And then when I took it off, he was just like not having my body and tried to hide me through most of the video, which was totally fine. I was just an extra. So there's me right at the beginning shot of Tears Dry on Their Own. Amy herself was just not having it that day either. She was screaming at her boyfriend. They'd be all over each other one minute and then screaming at him the next. She was kicking chairs. She literally was telling, like throwing people off chairs. She was like, tiny, but she was like pulling chairs from out of people, like kicking things, throwing things. And I remember she threw a water bottle at someone. I don't know if it was an extra or a crew, but I remember everyone like, what the fuck? And then I remember they got offered money and then they like left. And that's all I remember. But RIP. She's just, Amy, I think, just had a lot of issues. More celebrities that were really nice and I have no beef with. Jeff Goldblum, we were hired superheroes for his party that his band was playing at, and he was totally vibing and dancing with all of us, including my neighbor Superman, so 10 out of 10. So Alice Cooper, I dated his personal assistant of, I think it was like 20 years. His name was Brian Nelson, R.I.P. Brian, and he introduced me to Alice, and Alice was super, super cool. He is a teetotaler. He's sober. He has like a family life and stuff like that, and he was just really happy to have met me through Brian, and I just remember him saying congratulations for getting a good guy. Brian was a really good guy, and I totally miss him, and Alice Cooper was really cool. He was just like a dad. He wasn't like a rock star at all. He was just like, congrats on being with my son kind of vibe, and I like that. Pretty sure Edgar Wright was always scared of me, but the other cast of whatever movie this was really nice. They liked my hair. I think he once referred to me as a freaky, obsessed Quentin Tarantino chick, and I was obsessed with that, so yeah. Okay, this is another kind of random celebrity beef, and RIP to Hef. Like, it's actually really sad that he is passed away because he is an icon. This was me at the Playboy Mansion. I used to go out for Sunday fun days for about a year, and then I got cut. They always take your Polaroid, and I think they put your weight or they ask you your weight or whatever, but they basically take a Polaroid just to see how you're evolving. Well, this was the last time I was at the mansion, and Hef felt me up, and he basically told me that I gained weight and that I had a little tummy. He felt my love handles. He goes, oh, and you have some tummy on the side, which is basically my love handle. And he goes, well, I guess this is your last time at the mansion. And it was. And that is when I developed my ED. So most of these celebrities I just worked with in some capacity. This one I just was an absolute fan of, and he's my favorite celebrity. This is Quentin Tarantino. He is the reason I moved to LA. He was my inspiration for moving to LA. I was completely obsessed with him as 18. This was during a Grindhouse press tour, and apparently he had heard of me from my MySpace and YouTube. This is when I learned about the power of social media and was so freaking sweet and such a gentleman. Every time I saw him at his theater in West Hollywood, the one that he owned, he would always just be like, Trish, just so over the top nice, even though I was like a crazy like stalker looker on YouTube and stuff. All my videos were about him in my MySpace page. And then a few years later, I happened to be in the same Jimmy Kimmel green room, and we took this picture, and he remembered me and was so nice, and he'd always just had that cool swag about him and knew exactly what I did, which was being a superhero on Hollywood Boulevard at the time. Nothing sexual or creepy. He was absolutely amazing. He's married now and to an Israeli. Yay!